American history and its influence of African lineage. You live in a very special city where you have not only confirmation of the significance from the library and your citizens, and of course our organization, Our Community Cares, but you're privileged enough to have a mayor that supports making sure you know just how significant it is. So what we are planning to do for you is we want you to have a taste of soul food. The library is in pristine condition because they have to restrict where food can be consumed. And so if you come up to the table and you order your Southern Country Fried Chicken Salad, you're going to have it here and you can consume it in here. Carter G. Woodson is going to explain to you the significance of this event this afternoon, and he's going to introduce a very, very significant guest to you. So I'm not going to spoil it and let you know who has come here to make sure that you know how the city of Live Oak values your heritage and your contribution to American history. I'm going to introduce Carter G. Woodson and allow him to share that with you. Is Carter G. Woodson in this room? Mr. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson. You know he's been attending at Harvard. Very, very significant education because he is one of very few black males that have been accepted into Harvard University. So he's very, very busy. Make sure you regard Mr. Woodson for the quality of education he has received. Is Mr. Woodson here?
I'm here.
Nice.
First of all, we're delighted to be able to come and share with you today. It's important for us to realize that the reason that we are here today is simply because that the history book does not carry the full Black history story. And we would like for you to really understand how important it is to know your heritage, to know where you come from, know where you're going. Can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, thank you. So, Carter G. Woodson, he strived for people to learn Black history. He was, in fact, my poster's inside, but anyway, we just go on with it. Carter, he went to Harvard. He was the second Black male in the world to receive a doctorate degree. He worked during his high school years, somewhere around 18 years of age when he actually finished high school. But he worked in a coal mine and on railroads. He did all he could, but his main goal was learning. His desire that people would learn. And he said, one of his famous sayings was, "You're never too old to learn." And he would read to his students. He was chosen to be principal in his hometown. He went back and he taught in the classroom, and he principal. He's teaching people to be proud of your heritage, be proud of where you come from, no matter how it might have seemed in those days. That God will walk you through every situation. It's vital for us to remember that I am simply because the God I serve made me who I am.
Amen.
Right? We need to learn how to live and depend on the fact that we are overcome by the blood of Christ our Savior. And I'm glad today to tell you that it doesn't matter if you're Black or you're white. Carter, there's nothing in here to tell me anything about what Carter had any prejudice showing, regardless of what trials he went through. He didn't put all that in the book. But what he put in the book, the victory of overcoming and becoming an educated individual. And this is what we encourage all our young people to do, become an educated individual. Now Carter is also, he was the founder of Black History Week, which later became Black History Month that we celebrating right now. Carter, he went to Harvard University. Also, he went to the University of Chicago. But I think if he's here today, he was trying to tell you, be proud of your heritage.
Yes.
even before you.
I'll accept yours as well. That's great. So, Mr. Joyner was asking me if I enjoyed, being the mayor. I like the job. And I said, well, the mayor in Live Oak is more ceremonial than, fixing potholes and things. And I said, I'd rather do things like this than fix potholes.
Right.
But if you have a pothole, you can still give me a call. We'll try to. But Cynthia came to me at the beginning of the month, which is, of course, beginning of Black History Month, 1st of February, and asked about a proclamation, and I was more than happy to do so. So this is what it looks like here. Got the seal of the city of Live Oak, and I'd like to read that. It's my privilege and honor to do that here today. Black History Month, February 2025, whereas this month we celebrated our American history and contributions of African heritage. Whereas we recognize the heritage and achievements of African culture, the contributions African culture has made and continues to make is an integral part of our society and the history of Americans of African descent, exemplifies the resilience and innovative spirit that continue to make our nation great. And whereas for generations, Americans of African heritage and culture has embodied the shared progress of our nation through toil and struggle, and with courageous actions that have broken barriers that have made America a better place to live and work for everybody, from native African kings and queens to Americans of African descent such as Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., and Barack Obama. And whereas we share a rich cultural history which embodies valuable cultural contributions from Africa through its cultural norms and Americans of African descent, the strength and determination of men and women like these remind us that our nation brims with people whose contributions continue to make it stronger and better. And whereas our success historically, presently, and as we embark on our future requires the continued commitment and contributions of our citizens and fellow Americans of African descent, we continue this journey toward a stronger, more united nation. Let us use this commemoration of American history to celebrate the contributions made from African heritage and culture. And whereas let us use this month to serve as a reminder of the need for continued meaningful dialogue and shared commitment to collective action that uplifts and empowers, as well as of the strength, ingenuity, and perseverance required of us in the years to come, because we have learned from the opportunities of our past and know that we are stronger together. Now therefore, I, Mayor Frank C. Davis of the City of Live Oak, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2025 as the month to celebrate African American history and the era of African heritage in the city of Live Oak, Florida. And so doing, urge all citizens to join me in observing this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. And witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and seal, and cause this to be affixed the first day of February 2025 on C. Davis.
Was never married, never had any kids. I think he had 7 siblings. His parents were born slaves. They was, in fact, Carter was born 10 years after slavery. He was born in 1875, and he launched Negro History Week in 1926. As I supposed to say, he worked to educate people on realizing how important it is to be educated. Carter G. Woodson, in the day that he was educated and received his PhD degree, it was almost impossible for a black man to even go to school anywhere.
That's right.
Well, his mother was very skillful, and she taught him all about the history of where he came from and what she and her husband went through. But we need to remember this very day that we are overcomers. No matter where you've been, where you come from, you can be who you desire to be. But you just gotta lift up your head and continue to press forward to be the type of person that you really need to be. It's not important about what people think you are. It's important, convince yourself. that you can do anything if you put your trust in God and press forward. So I would like to thank you very much for being with us. And Carter G. Woodson, unfortunately, time came and he had to die. So please move on to the Queen. Yeah, they got something.
Soon, very soon, the Portuguese are going to come to my native land. They're going to take my kids. But you know what? I need something from each of you. I need each of you to remember what I'm about to tell you about Queen Njinga, so that as you meet the children that the Portuguese are going to take away from my land and take to the new country, you will tell them that you met one of their ancestral queens. What's my name?
Queen Njinga.
Queen Njinga. So Queen Njinga was born into a royal family, and that royal family was of the Angola people. Her father was King Ndogo, and her mother was Queen Angela. I should not have been queen, not of the Angola people, because I am a woman. And my brother should have taken heir and became king. My brother died. He died, and as a result of it, I was become ruler of this great land. I was very, very diplomatic. I communicated very well with people of different lands. My people were proud to serve up under my rule, proud. I taught them to communicate with others. I taught them to make things with their hands. I was not only versed as a beautiful queen, but I too was a ruler. We made things. My people made things. And as you meet more people from my land in the new country, I need you to remind them that they are from a people, powerful people, that you have met their queen, and you knew that they did wonderful things. Are you going to tell my people that? I need you to. Hey, do you know what is so significant? How can anyone tell that I am a queen versus any other mere maiden here? My uniqueness. I have garment, attire, and something on me that is unique. No other lay maiden would look like I do. My hairstyle, my clothing, my mannerism, my language, my tongue, all distinguishes me. My uniqueness tells you that I am Queen Njinga. So, I would like to give you some, so that when you meet my people later, you can tell them you have proof that they are from royalty because you met their queen. Would you do that for me? Appreciate it. You know, you are going to meet so many great people. You're going to meet Susan B. Anthony. Susan B. Anthony is going to believe so much in equality that she is going to sacrifice her own freedoms to make sure that the people who look like me and other people are treated equally in this new country you're going to. Would you promise me that as you meet Susan B. Anthony, Frederick Douglass, John Brown, JFK, you respect and pave the way for them because they are going to do great things to bring equality. And who did you meet? I will not leave you out. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Who have you met today? Queen Njinga. Go forth.
As I am representing John F. Kennedy, there are a lot of things that I think are particularly interesting about him. One, he was born into an extraordinarily large family. that was very wealthy in Massachusetts, and according to a great number of the people in our population, got wealthy through not necessarily appropriate means. But as they became powerful and rich, they also became influencers and politically powerful, and they gave birth to an American family that was as much nobility as you can imagine, because so many of their family and descendants have been big in politics, powerful in politics, and so forth. So it's a real political family. Born in 1917 in May, went to Harvard. In Harvard, playing sports with his older brother Joseph, tore his back up. You'll read about that in other events. But graduated from Harvard in 1940. Well, of course, you know that World War II started in 1941. He went in as a Navy officer, and you've probably seen the movie PT-109 with Cliff Robertson as JFK, that he was one of the captains of a PT boat. Well, the PT boats were those boats that ran up and down these passageway between the islands to look for Japanese. And they were like giant speedboats. I had a couple torpedoes on them and a couple small guns. And out of the fog, a giant Japanese cruise ship just ran right over them. And when he did, they threw him out, crushed the boat, and the men, luckily, all made it to an island. This was the place where most people heard that JFK injured his back for the rest of his life. You saw him in rocking chairs and hear about his surgeries and various things, that it was a real challenge for him. But eventually all their people got rescued and came back to America. Well, he entered politics, became big in politics, and ran for president. He was the youngest to run for president. He was the youngest to become president. And it was a real challenge. 1960, as they ran, they had the first political debates on TV, and of course JFK really wiped out Nixon. Nixon looked so bland and so pitiful, and JFK looked so vibrant and alive and so forth, that it was really a big turning point for him. But one of the big disasters in terms of the struggle the nation had with electing JFK was that he was Catholic. And they were afraid that they did not want the Pope in the White House. They wanted an American in the White House. And so it was difficult sometimes to convince them that he was going to run the White House, not the Pope. But that was a real big deal. So he was the youngest president, first Catholic to ever be elected. When he was president, it was a time of real chaos in the world, okay? There was a tremendous amount of the Cold War, highly powerful, highly activated, culminating in the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Bay of Pigs. There was a giant run on making a nuclear treaty around the major nations. There were just so many things going on. Not the least of those were all the issues in America, the social issues in America. Now, one of the things that Kennedy did before he became president is he wrote a book called Profiles in Courage. And Profiles in Courage was a book about people who were in powerful positions, who used their power against all challenges for the good of others. And that book won him a Pulitzer Prize. Well, it was his turn, because during that time there was a tremendous amount of struggle with women's rights, with black rights, and so forth. The day that he had to order the National Guard to move Governor George Wallace off the steps of his college so that it could be integrated, he gave a pronouncement, this is June of 1963, he gave a pronouncement, the Civil Rights Address. This is a powerful, powerful message that he gave about what rights any person in America should expect. And that it was absolutely incorrect for us to say, we are the land of freedom, except for. We don't have any second-class citizens, except for. That somewhere along the line, the American truth needed to be the total truth. And so he made that speech. Well, in November of 1963, he was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. But the Civil Rights Act moved forward and was passed in 1964, along with a variety of other things. He created the Peace Corps. He created, there's just a long list of social things. The Apollo space program, urban development, equal pay for equal rights, civil rights, the status of women, and so forth. He had so many issues that at one point they called him the busiest man in America because he was facing so many different directions. I encourage you that if you haven't read it, that you get on the internet and look up JFK Civil Rights Address and read it. It is powerful and it is encouraging, and it's encouraging to everyone. I downloaded it immediately. B said, oh, by the way, you're going to be talking about this. And I'm going, oh, great. So I'll look it up. I looked it up, downloaded it. Of course, I have it on my iPad now so that I can read over it from time to time. And I read it, and it's just amazing. And it's something that we all should be aware of. And so JFK, despite his short life, had a very powerful impact on America.
Amen.
Thank you.
Good job.
Is my wife. I'm the founder of Providence Hospital. What I'm really known for is performing the first successful open heart surgery. My impacts to American history is that I founded the first non-segregational school in the United States. I co-founded the National Medical Association for African Americans. And that I graduated from the famous quote I always say is, a person who does not make provision for their own sin and suffering are not worthy of civilization. A person who does not make provision for their own sin and suffering are not worthy of civilization.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Maya Angelou. But did you know I've spoke in several presidential inaugurations? My poems have been heard all over the world. Africa, China, America, everywhere you can think of, they've invited me to speak. But did you know, when I was 7 years old, I stopped speaking. You wanna know why? I was at home one day. I was bounced around from house to house. My family was very poor. Didn't have a lot of money. So one week, my aunt would take care of me. Another week, my friends would take care of me. Another week, my grandmama would take care of me. But I went home one day. My mother's boyfriend came up to me and did the unspeakable. I told everybody about it. Told my brothers. Told my uncles. He went to jail for one day. They let him out. My uncles got together and they whooped his butt. But they whooped him so hard they killed him. And when they killed him, it terrorized me. Because my voice had another person killed. So I stopped using it. I didn't want to get nobody hurt. I didn't want to see anybody die. So I stopped using my voice. 5 years, I refused to talk. The teachers would try to get me to talk. Wouldn't say anything. My mom would try to get me to talk. Still wouldn't say anything. Cousins, uncles, everybody would try to get little Maya to talk. But I would not speak. One day my grandmother was doing my hair, and she said, and they were trying to get me to talk. Grandmother said, leave that girl alone. Because when she does speak, the whole world will want to know what she has to say. True enough, I love poetry. Love poetry. I love to write poetry. I love to hear poetry. It was beautiful. It moved me. But my teacher told me, poetry, to hear poetry is fine, to write poetry is fine, but when you speak it, it can change lives. I thought about that thing. I guess I want to speak. So I began to speak. Everybody listened to what I said. Presidents listened to what I had to say. Doctors, lawyers, everybody listened to what I had to say. I'm shocked. Why all these people want to listen to me? But during the time that I didn't speak, God was giving me wisdom. Lots of sayings that I came up with. Let me read you just a few. Love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles. If you love somebody, you're going to go the extra mile for them. It leaps over fences. It penetrates walls just to arrive at its destination. Full of hope. Does that sound good?
Yes.
When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Does that sound good? I want you to be a rainbow in somebody's cloudy day. The truth is, nobody can be free unless all of us are free.
Amen.
And another one, this is one of my favorites. We may encounter defeats, but we must not be defeated.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Maya Angelou.
Ohio, where I met a guy named Joseph A. Numero, and we together made a U.S. Thermal Control Company, which later became Thermokit. I also received 61 patents for all the inventions I made, but one of them that was my favorite was the portable refrigeration that's used in water trucks. I saw the problem that people were getting rotten and spoiled food when they go for long distance travels, so I decided to fix that. And the portable refrigeration, it allows people to put food in there, and it can go long distance travels without worrying about getting spoiled. And I had a wife named Lucila, but in February 1969,
That was great.
school or even like have anything to do with it. So it was a very hard time because my dad didn't want me to have anything to do with it, but my mom really wanted me to because she wanted me to go be somebody. And after it took a lot of convincing for my dad to actually let me go, but I went. But on my first day, I had to be escorted by U.S. Marshals and the local police department because there were angry mobs outside of the school telling me to go back to where I came from and to not come back and threatening to kill me and stuff. So I didn't even actually get to even learn anything when I first did because no teacher wanted to actually teach a black kid and no parents wanted their kid in their classroom with a black kid or anything to do with them. But luckily this nice woman actually saw that I was unique and stand out from others and actually wanted to teach me. So I was in the classroom by myself all day long, and I wasn't allowed to go to recess or anything because the parents' children didn't want them to be associated with me. For a while, I stopped eating because this woman in the crowd that stood out to me told me that she was going to poison my food, and it just made me really uncomfortable to the point where I stopped eating home cooked food and only wanted to eat like packaged food, like chips and Coca-Cola and stuff like that. After a while, my mom finally found out why I didn't want to, and she was like very, very disappointed in how people could act like this towards a little girl. And she assured me that nobody was gonna poison my food and that the food was okay. And eventually I did get over that. At the end of the school year, my mom and dad did divorce because my dad was still not on terms with me being at the school, even after everything that we had been through. He did lose his job, so imagine how hard it being for my mom and dad to feed 5 children every single day with no job. My mom didn't have a job because she was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad had lost his because they didn't want the business to get hurt by what he was doing, and even the people in our neighborhood didn't want to be my friend or have anything to do with my parents because they were ashamed that my parents would actually do something like that, put their kid in danger like that. Because there were actually other people who had the opportunity to go like for other kids, but their parents immediately said no because they didn't want anything like what happened to me. So she's now 70 years old, and one of her famous quotes is, "Don't follow the path, go where there is no path and begin the trail." And that's what we're just. Any questions?
Williams. I was the first African American woman in the U.S. Army. Now, at the time that I enlisted, women were not allowed. So, because they were not allowed, I decided I still wanted to join. I shaved up all my hair. I got some men's clothing, and I enlisted as William Cathay. If you look in some books that they provided, yes, it will say that I am the first female woman to join. And it is a mystery how they could not have discovered that I was a woman. I was able to serve for 2 years before being discovered. I fell ill of smallpox, and whenever the doctor examined me, I'm a woman, so they had to discharge me. Whenever I was discharged, I did have some complications with diabetes, and because of that, I lost some of my toes, and it was very hard for me to walk on my own. Now, since I was a woman and they were not going to recognize that I was in the Army at all, I did not get my pension. So I had to work many difficult jobs just to stay afloat afterwards. However, I was born a slave and I died a soldier. Thanks,
Praise God.